Folks, welcome on in. This is Spruce and Studs, and today we have yet another JoyToy action figure to review, and this one is the Ultramarines Primaris Captain. We actually have not had too many HQ units get released. I believe we only have the Captain and Gravis armor as well as the Librarian, and those are the only headquarters units that were released by JoyToy for the Ultramarines. So this is the box in which the Ultramarine Captain comes in, and I'm very excited to get into this review, so let's do it. All right, folks, let's free the Captain up so that we can review him. Let's crack him open. There we go. Here is his data card. What is this? Purity seal fell off? Oh well. This is kind of par, unfortunately, for JoyToy. There are so many pieces here that I really do not know exactly where to start, but I will start off by my usual reviewing the armaments. So the first armament that I'm going to take a look at is the bolt rifle. Let's take a look how this goes. So with all my reviews, the first thing I look at is the painting. And the painting seems to be fairly okay for JoyToy standards. So you do get some bleed with silver onto the black. You also do get some silver onto black bleed over here. And let's flip this around to see if that's the case. Yep, here's another silver to black bleed. Taking a look at the rest of it, that's actually fairly minor compared to the other issues that we've been experiencing with JoyToy. I believe this is also a 2.0 figure, so maybe the painting has improved when they decided to change the body styles for the Space Marines. But looking at the bolt rifle, it looks pretty clean, in all honesty. I wish the scope actually had a different color, maybe a green or a red. And then perhaps this brass color could be a little bit more deep because you do see some black bleed over here. But I would have to say overall this looks really good. You have this nice weathering pattern over here. I would have to say overall this is pretty clean and I'm pretty impressed so far. So taking a look at the bolt pistol, it's more or less the same. I don't actually see too many painting issues with this one. It looks like JoyToy may have improved their quality assurance or painting skills, which is fantastic to me. So again, more weathering on the silver portions, which I really like. I think this power sword looks a little bit strange to me right now because typically what happens is with the end of it, this is usually flipped where the teeth is actually attached to the handle of it. So this looks a little bit strange to me. I wish they would have flipped this around. And I think that they have it actually flipped around in most of their other action figures. So this is really puzzling. But looking at the painting itself, it actually is a very dark power sword. In my other videos, especially the Blade Guard veterans, I do point out that I do like the lighter silver being up here, and then it gradually transitioned to a mid-tone silver and then a dark silver over here. So this is actually fairly dark through and through. Unfortunately, with the power nodes, this does not seem to be very prominent to me. I wish that this would have been a little bit more prominent of a blue color because the blue gets washed out by the dark gray that you find here. On the other side, it's a little bit better, but I kind of think that's a similar case of what's going on. And then we start looking at the rest of the painting on the handle of it, and the painting is really good here. You can see that the shading and the skulls are actually even and the recesses are filled. Same thing with the other side. It is even and is filled, which is, again, a marked improvement from what we have seen offered in the past. Overall, I'm very impressed with the 2.0 figures so far. The only one that I've reviewed is the Tolmeron one, but I really like how things are going right now. It is looking very positive for JoyToy. So the backpack has a nice characteristic iconography up here. It is fairly spiky, obviously, and there seems to be little to no painting issues, but there might be a little bit pooling of the shading that's going on over here. And then as you look at the backpack itself with the vents, again, the vents are a little bit worn looking and it has like a used metal kind of look, which is nice. I like this weathering that JoyToy has put both here and then down here. However, there might be some sort of painting issue that's here. Perhaps the shading got a bit away from the painter over here. And then looking at the extra tassels and stuff, the shading looks a little bit rough and uneven here. However, I'm glad that there is still shading involved. So as you can see, the shading is very, very dark here compared to the other tassel. So I would like that it's a little bit more even. But again, if you want to look at the past offerings that JoyToy has, it's pretty messy compared to this. So let's take a look at the cape. The cape is of a very soft material, and the cape is very, very clean. I like how the shading is done, and I think this is actually superb for a mass manufactured piece of plastic. You do have this nice shading over here, lighter red over here to represent sort of a highlight, and more shading over here as well. And that gradually blends up to a lighter red. So this looks really nice, very clean. And as you flip around to the other side, the same touch is applied here. Their manufacturing and painting skills are a lot better than they were before. So there is a portion down here, as you can tell, where the brass did not cover this kind of tannish colored look. There's some red bleed over here. And then same thing over here. The brass area did not cover the tan area, but this is, again, fairly minor. The cape is very clean. It's shaded very nicely. All right, let's take a look at the captain himself with his very Roman type of look. So starting off, as usual, we look at the helmet area. So let's look at this top part. And the shading is fairly uneven, in my opinion. You get some shading over here, and it disappears here. Barely any shading here. So a little bit uneven. Taking a look at the lower part of the helmet area, the lenses actually don't look that bad. The red is supposed to be where the red is, and the blue is staying around there. You look at this scope area on the helmet, it looks very clean as well. The red of the lenses here is staying within that red area. Overall, not too bad, not too shabby. This is fantastic. All right, let's take a look at the captain's pauldron over here. This is of a very dark brass kind of look. I wish this would have been a little bit lighter, but I think that this is a separate piece that they affixed onto the main body of the Space Marine, because this is very raised, and I think, yeah, it looks definitely glued on. But there is some painting issues where the brass color did not cover up the blue here. A brass color bled onto the blue, and then this is kind of uneven down here too. And in true JoyToy fashion, this is still very, very clean, very crisp, with no issues whatsoever with the Omega sign. And this particular pauldron, yes, there are some issues over here where the brass color should be a little bit more prominent over here. The chest area is actually not that bad too. You have a lot of shading that's going on over here. They may have missed the shading that's at the nose area, but this is still pretty even compared to what it was before. You have a dark shading where you would expect it to be between the chords here. They might have gone a little bit overboard with the shading. There's some bleed with the red onto the blue on this section. And then over here with this icon, it actually isn't too bad. And I'm actually pretty impressed with this forearm area here. The green is actually staying within the green areas. The red is actually within the red areas too on top. So they've definitely improved their painting methods for sure. So with the loincloth area, you get to see, obviously, the loincloth over here. There is some areas in which the red did not cover this tan piece. And then the loincloth doesn't seem to be too decorated, as I think I probably might have broken this part off a little bit as I was trying to move it around. I'm sure we can attach it later. Anyways, this is kind of a monochrome type of red color as compared to the cape back here. And then looking at this lantern, the lantern is actually okay for the most part, but you do see some bleed from the turquoise part of the lantern onto the brass part. Looks like it's an issue that goes all around. So on the belt area, we're looking at the pouches, it's highlighted very unevenly, and that doesn't surprise me for JoyToy. This happens all the time. You get very prominent and messy highlights over here and barely any highlights on this area. Same thing with this pouch. You get highlights up top, but on the side there is very minimal ones. And then looking at the leg area, you do have an issue where there's a silver paint onto the blue, which shouldn't be there, obviously. And the skull down here is not that bad looking. Obviously, there's no bleed because I'm pretty sure that this is a separate piece that JoyToy attached at the end of the manufacturing process. Then obviously, this is where the purity seal goes. So I'm going to have to cover this up later on. I'll do a really quick review of the articulation. 360 degrees around the head. 360 degrees around the shoulder joint, and there is a ratcheting mechanism which indicates that this indeed is a 2.0 figure. You do have better mobility and flexing around the joint area. There is 360 degree rotation around the waist area. It's actually quite easy to maneuver. With this leg area, you can pivot the knee all the way back here and then kick the legs out pretty far back. But it's typically blocked by all the stuff that's in front, and I don't want to push this too much because it might screw up the loincloth. You can pivot the feet around over here at the ankle joint, and then pivot the toes over here for, like I said, better stability during posing. All right, let's give this captain its full regalia. So the first thing that we're going to be putting on is the cape. The cape goes on like so. And then you finish off the look with putting the backpack on, and it goes in through these pegs. And then with this hand, you're going to be putting the bolt pistol, because this is where the trigger goes, like so. And then the other hand, you're going to be putting the power sword. And there we have it, a Ultramarines captain that is kitted out for close combat. Before we wrap up with final thoughts, I want to also highlight these different hands over here. So this is a separate right hand that you can attach that will allow the captain to wield the power sword in his right hand instead of his left. And then you have these left hands that you are able to use for gestures in emotes, I suppose. So the open hand of domination look, the closed fist of power look, and then finally go annihilate them. So that's it for the review, and let's wrap this one up. All right, folks, we are done with the review finally. And what do I think about this captain? This captain is fantastic. That's it. That's all I'll say. End review. No, just kidding. So you've heard me in the past videos on the 1.0 Space Marines for that JoyToy makes. I was ripping on them all the time for their lack of paint quality. And a lot of people have found out that is a major issue with any kind of JoyToy action figure, that the paint quality was pretty bad and it was definitely lacking. However, in this particular action figure sitting in front of me or standing in front of me, there are issues, but they are so minor compared to what they were before. There's only small blemishes here and there that overall do not detract from the whole entire aesthetic of this action figure. They have definitely improved, and I'm very impressed, and I feel that right now the money that I'm currently spending on these action figures is definitely worth the price of admission. I did not feel like that before, but I definitely do feel like that now. So overall, I will give my 2 thumbs up and endorsement for this action figure. If you are an Ultramarines fan, or you like Space Marine Captains like I do, this is definitely a must-buy. I hope that JoyToy keeps up this trend with these 2.0 action figures, because I will keep singing praises and bleed money for them. So let me know in the comments section, folks, what you think about this action figure. Were you on the fence about getting it, and because perhaps you see how it is during the review, you're probably now going to get it? I would like to know. So this is Sprues and Studs, and thank you for watching. There's, again, going to be way more JoyToy content and action figure review content coming in the future.
So, as usual, I'll see you all in the next one.